Before central heating, insulated walls, or double-glazed windows, winter in the Middle Ages was not just a season. It was a matter of life and death. Bitter cold, hunger, and disease made winter a brutal test of survival. In this episode of Dark Age Archives, we investigate why medieval winters were so merciless and how people endured months where every day could kill you. Between roughly 1250 and 1850, Europe experienced the Little Ice Age, a period of gradual climate cooling that brought harsher winters, shorter growing seasons, and colder summers. This wasn't a modern winter of skiing holidays and hot cocoa. This was prolonged frost, ruined harvests, frozen rivers, and blizzards that could swallow entire villages. Chroniclers wrote of snow lasting from November through April, trapping communities and severing them from trade or aid. Most medieval homes offered little protection from the cold. The average peasant lived in a simple wattle and daub hut with a thatched roof. Windows, if they existed, were often just holes covered with cloth or wooden shutters. There was no insulation. Wind, snow, and rain easily crept through the walls. At night, temperatures indoors could drop below freezing. Families huddled together with their livestock inside, both for warmth and because animals needed shelter too. Fire was essential, but not guaranteed. Wood was the primary source of heat, but forests were often distant or regulated by local lords. Gathering firewood took time, energy, and permission. In hard winters, people burned dung, straw, or even dried peat when wood ran out. Hearths were smoky and inefficient. Once the fire died out, the cold returned almost instantly. Clothing helped, but only to a point. Layers of linen, wool, and fur insulated the body, but garments were often second-hand, poorly fitted, and worn thin. Wool socks and cloaks helped retain body heat, but shoes were rudimentary. In northern regions, wooden clogs or simple leather soles offered little protection. Frostbite was common. So was chilblains, painful skin inflammation caused by cold and damp. Fingers, toes, and noses were especially vulnerable. Beyond physical discomfort, cold affected agriculture, trade, and society. Harsh winters damaged crops, killed livestock, and delayed planting seasons. Grain prices spiked. Poor harvests meant poor seed reserves, which jeopardized the next year's food supply. Malnutrition weakened immune systems. Outbreaks of disease often followed cold spells. In 1315 to 1317, the Great Famine ravaged Europe after cold, wet weather ruined harvests 3 years in a row. Medieval diets relied heavily on stored food. Winter meant survival depended on how well a family had prepared. Grains, root vegetables, cured meats, and cheese were staples. But storage methods were primitive. Spoiled food was common. Mice and rats invaded storage chests. Mold spread easily. Food poisoning, though poorly understood, claimed many lives. In cities, conditions were even worse. Narrow streets funneled wind. Poor drainage turned snow into filth-laden slush. Disease spread quickly in damp, overpopulated neighborhoods. Wealthier families might afford thicker clothing, multiple hearths, or stone houses with tapestries to block drafts. But for the vast majority, winter was a season of suffering. People adapted with communal resilience. Neighbors shared fires, meals, and resources. Churches and monasteries distributed alms, bread, and sometimes firewood. Fairs and feasts were held around midwinter, not just for celebration, but to lift morale. Yule logs, wassailing, and local customs brought people together when spirits ran low. Despite the cold, life continued. Markets adjusted. In some regions, frozen rivers became roads for sleds and carts. Ice fairs were held in cities like London, where the Thames occasionally froze solid. People skated, traded, and celebrated on the ice, transforming danger into festivity. These moments of joy didn't erase the hardship, but they helped endure it. Religious life also shaped winter experiences. Advent, Christmas, and Lent defined the season's rhythm. Monastic communities maintained schedules of prayer and work regardless of weather. Nuns and monks grew hardy herbs in cold frames, maintained livestock, and preserved manuscripts in chilly scriptoria. Their discipline provided stability in uncertain times. Animals fared no better than people. Cattle, pigs, chickens, and sheep needed shelter and fodder. Many were slaughtered before winter to reduce feed requirements. Preserved meat was hung in cellars or smoked in sheds. But poor families sometimes sacrificed breeding stock just to survive, endangering their livelihoods for the next year. Medicine was rudimentary. Cold-induced illnesses like pneumonia, bronchitis, and hypothermia were often fatal. Healers used herbal infusions, thyme, sage, rosemary, to treat coughs. But most relied on prayer, charms, or superstitions. The sick were sometimes isolated in outbuildings or sent to monasteries. Mental health also suffered. Long, dark nights and constant hardship wore people down. Winter depression existed, though unnamed. Some chroniclers noted increased despair or lethargy in communities after extended cold. Storytelling, music, and communal games provided distraction and connection. The harshness of winter influenced everything, from architecture to timekeeping. People tracked the sun's path with primitive calendars. They celebrated solstices and equinoxes as sacred events. Buildings were oriented to maximize sunlight. Windows faced east when possible. Even agricultural tools were adjusted for frozen soil. Winter shaped legends and fears. Folktales spoke of icy spirits, frost demons, or witches that rode blizzards. Children were warned not to stray far lest they vanish in the snow. These stories weren't just myth. They were reflections of real danger. Yet in this hardship, a deep knowledge of nature flourished. People knew how to read clouds, listen for storms, and prepare accordingly. Elders passed down wisdom: how to layer straw under beds, when to open vents to release smoke, how to store food away from moisture. The medieval winter was not survived by chance. It was endured through community, tradition, ingenuity, and resilience. Today, we complain about frosted car windows. Centuries ago, frost could mean death. This has been Dark Age Archives. Subscribe to uncover the forgotten truths that shaped history. New episodes 3 times a week.